From the Cactus KCTS FM Phoenix, I'm Jamison Greenwood with Greenwood and Company. Well, great to be with you all. It's almost time for the holiday season, and Christmas will be here before we know it. Before we get started, I wanted to wish a happy birthday to two friends of mine, Mr. Charles Colmark as well as Mr. Jaron Kitchell. Happy birthday to both of you, good friends of mine. And I'm so excited to be sharing with you our Christmas show. A lot of trouble goes into finding the right gifts for just the right people, and when I think about how difficult that can sometimes be, I think about the time when I celebrated Christmas with my friends from Brubeck's Coffee Shop. In the Episcopal Church, Christmas carols are always sung on Christmas Eve, but seldom during Advent. The only remotely Christmas-related song one can hear is O Come Emmanuel, and there are never usually Christmas decorations in the church until Christmas Eve. Instead, scriptures and sermons cover the prophecies of the Old Testament and the conception of the Christ child in the New Testament, while the 4 candles of the Advent wreath are gradually lit. The third week of Advent, when we lit the 2 purple candles plus the 1 pink one, Deacon Ruth joined us at the campus ministry to serve as a guest preacher discussing the angel of Gabriel's visit to Mary, along with plans for the meal at a Christmas party she would host for us. Colton and Heather agreed to help Deacon Ruth cook tacos and burritos, Annabelle agreed to bring rice and beans, and I to bring corn chips, salsa, and queso dip. Deacon Ruth declared things set for dinner, then Jorge distributed several pieces of paper. "Friends," he declared, "we're doing Secret Santa this year. Once you get your paper, please write down your name and 2 to 3 items you'd like from each of the following categories: stores, food and drink, hobbies, and just for fun." The first 2 categories proved easy to me, Office Max and Barnes & Noble and Amazon for stores, then coffee, root beer, and cookies for food and drink. But my only hobby was writing. I put down drawing because I drew as a kid, but hardly ever did now. Just for fun yielded trivia games and Disney stuff, but both required what seemed like hours to come up with. Material possessions meant less and less to me as I got older, and I also feared seeming pretentious as I did in most other aspects of my life. Eventually, I placed my slip into Jorge's sorting hat, which, unlike the wizarding one used at Hogwarts, was a Santa Claus hat with yellow and black Pikachu ears. Jorge and his wife Kelly, like Colton, were big fans of Pokemon, and reflected this in various portions of their lives. While Jorge passed the hat among us after shaking it, I began to ponder who I might get as my assignment. I wanted Annabelle the most, as I figured this could be a subtle, wonderful opportunity to prove my love for her, but I knew it was about a 1 in a dozen chance. Colton, Jorge, and Kelly would be glad to have more Pokemon cards or bric-a-brac, and Colton would be glad to have a REI gift card. My previous desire to draw Annabelle also began to create concern, as if I didn't get just the right gift, she might consider it either too much or not enough flattery, either of which could obliterate the chances of us becoming a couple. Finally, the Santa hat with the strange yellow ears reached me, and I withdrew a piece of paper to find my secret Christmas child. When I unfolded it, it read, Annabelle, stores, Sharps Flats and Fugues, Cost Plus World Market, Ulta, hobbies, music, hiking, jewelry making, food and drink, coffee, chocolate, shellfish, just for fun, a book translated to Portuguese, DVD of Rio, Pandiero. As the weeks of Advent went by, we drew closer and closer to Christmas. Snow blanketed the ground of Pine Bough, people of all ages went sledding and built snowmen on the HCU campus, Courthouse Square, and the park outside the Selma J. Payne Library. On the faux gas street lamps downtown, the city hung wreaths with white lights and red and gold Christmas bows, while St. Edward's and the other churches set up their nativity scenes just outside the sanctuaries. No expense was spared at Brubeck's when it came to holiday decorations either. There were narrow Christmas trees on either side of the stage, Heather's Christmas scones in red and green with white glaze and Christmas sprinkles filled the display cabinet, an electric menorah stood in the windowsill for Hanukkah, and some dreidels hung from the ceiling fan pull chains along with Christmas ornaments in red, green, silver, and gold. I enjoyed a coffee and one of Heather's green Christmas scones when Colton, who was helping me study for a math test, sighed in agony. "I'm struggling on my Secret Santa," he explained. "Who'd you get?" I asked. "Heather," Colton chuckled. It's like the best and worst thing at the same time. She's got a lot of ideas to start with, but it's still hard to get the stuff for a theater girl. She's got Marvel listed, too. I'd get her a DVD of the latest Marvel movie, but I don't think she and Annabelle use DVDs. I'll ponder, I told him, but looking at her list didn't help me much either, until I spotted this item. Something for the kitchen. But what would something for the kitchen be? Well, we'll have to find out after we come back from this short break, because unfortunately we've reached that time in the show again, but stick around, we won't be long. You are listening to Greenwood and Company on KCTS. Winter holidays are happier with Hobbs Wellington department stores, especially if you have an unanticipated appliance replacement this Christmas. Roast your turkey and bake your Christmas cookies in a Hobbs Wellington exclusive double wall oven with flash-oversized flames for maximum danger and cooking efficiency. Just $500 or 4 interest-free payments of $400. Tired of your butt sinking in Grandma's old burnt orange sofa? Your tree will look great next to this Hobbs Wellington dead body gray sofa. Boring college dorm room design with cushions as hard as a rock. Out the door at $898. And if you lack holiday spirit and want to watch football or a slasher film this Christmas, buy a Hobbs Wellington Smart TV, compatible with all your streaming services. Only $111 for a color set, or get our black and white model for only $100 more. Check off your ill-conceived holiday wish list at Hobbs Wellington department stores. 9 locations throughout Arizona. And welcome back. You are listening to Greenwood and Company on the Cactus, KCTS. Now, before the break, Colton and I were trying to figure out Heather's Secret Santa desires, specifically what something for the kitchen might mean. That covers almost anything. But what? Colton asked. A bag of flour or sugar so she can make scones? She can only make the scones here. Why only here? I asked. She needs a food processor. She and Annabelle don't have a food processor at... Wait a second, that's it. I'll get her a small food processor. That's something for the kitchen. Colton and I went over a few last-minute items on matrices before he refilled my coffee in a to-go cup. I donned my big black coat, matching fedora and plaid scarf, and went next door to Starlight Books and Stationery to search for a gift for Annabelle. Starlight Books and Stationery was an independent bookstore housed in a one-story white stucco building next to Brubeck's, and expanded into a slot of the Madison Hotel on the other side, which still had black and white floor tiles from when it was the Grand Canyon Cafe. Among the dark cherry and Haywood Wakefield blonde shelves, bookworms browsed a selection that could rival Barnes & Noble, Borders, Books A Million, and the Library of Congress combined. Granola tourists studied guides for hiking trails and northern Arizona wildlife, and poets in driving caps, and one in a pair of navy blue sweatpants with black Dockers loafers, whom I'd frequently seen around the English department, browsed the latest releases by Billy Collins and the time-honored favorites from Pablo Neruda to Maya Angelou. Hoping per her list to find a Portuguese copy of East of Eden or The Handmaid's Tale, 2 of Annabelle's favorites, I went to the extensive foreign language section in the ex-diner portion of the store. While there were multiple copies of both books in Spanish, Mandarin, and Japanese, I found neither as I glanced through the Portuguese section, which was actually somewhat limited. Some, such as Dickens' Oliver Twist and Harry Potter y a Pedra Filosofal, looked promising, but I was unsure that Annabelle was that big a fan of either. I was about to settle on John Green's The Fault in Our Stars, when a hard-bound volume with gold letters and gilded pages caught my eye. Biblia Sagrada on its front cover. The protective sleeve indicated the words of Christ were in red. Something told me that this Portuguese Bible would make the best gift, so I took it and a tube of red Christmas wrapping paper with penguins on it to the counter, paid for them, and brought them home to wrap up for Annabelle. Our Christmas party would commence at 6:30 p.m. at Deacon Ruth's house on the Sunday before finals week, but Colton and Heather arrived 2 hours earlier dressed in Santa hats and Christmas-themed sweatshirts with a Peanuts graphic on Heather's and SpongeBob graphic on Colton's. They took their positions with Deacon Ruth in the kitchen that was equipped with a 5-burner gas cooktop, double wall oven, and decorated with various Coca-Cola bric-a-brac from when the deacon worked as an executive vice president for the company in Atlanta, prior to discerning her call to the diaconate. While Deacon Ruth and Colton grilled seasoned chicken and beef, Heather made coffee, hot chocolate, and apple cider before going to grill tortillas. Heather also had plans to bake a batch of her Christmas scones once Colton and Deacon Ruth got the meat squared away. Once the chicken and beef were cooked, Colton and Deacon Ruth put them in the oven on low heat to keep them warm. Then Colton went to the restroom while Deacon Ruth drove over to Giggett's supermarket to get some last-minute supplies. When Colton finished in the restroom, he planned to take over for Heather on the tortillas, while Heather made a large batch of her Christmas scones. But upon returning to the kitchen, he found Heather in a pensive mood. "I just found out that Deacon Ruth doesn't have a food processor," Heather moped. "I can't make scones without a food processor." Colton knew that his Secret Santa had the potential to backfire. Sure, she'd still get a food processor, but it was not in time for when she needed it and would probably bring more grief. "I brought a small one with me, Heather. Would that work?" Colton regretted it as soon as he said it. "Now I'll have no gift," he thought. "I might have to mix them in a few smaller batches, but a small one will be good. You want to give me your keys?" Colton knew he'd have to modify his gift and/or delivery, but Heather's surprise would for sure be spoiled if she found the food processor in the gift bag with her name. "I'll get it for you, Heather." Heather had a quizzical countenance. Colton had to curb her suspicions. "I just don't want you to freeze." Heather giggled. "You're so sweet." Colton had parked his Kia Rio on the far side of Deacon Ruth's driveway, but he still feared that Heather might be able to see him through the kitchen window, which was to the left of the garage. However, before he opened the trunk, he glanced and saw no one in the kitchen, so he figured if he couldn't see Heather, Heather couldn't see him. He wriggled the food processor out of its bag and unwrapped the green tissue paper surrounding it to disguise its being a Christmas gift. He was about to close the trunk and head back in the house when he realized another problem. The package was never opened, and that could be a possible giveaway. Colton glanced at the window again, did not see Heather, then dashed around to the hood of his car, out of the kitchen window's viewing range, and carefully sliced the tape sealing the package with his keys. He removed the jar, lid, motor, blades, and discs from their styrofoam housing, returned the package to the trunk, and proceeded to return to the kitchen. He slipped on some ice while walking out to the car, and did so again while returning to the house, but both Colton and the food processor managed to escape unharmed. Then, as Colton was ascending the steps to the front door, a drop of water from a melting icicle fell in the jar. However, Colton saw this as a stroke of good luck. "She wouldn't be suspicious when I insisted on washing it," he told me later. Once Colton washed the components, he feared it might not work, but once Heather was ready to whiz together the flour, sugar, food coloring, and other ingredients, it worked exactly as intended. Colton had saved the day for Heather's party prep, but he had a new problem. What do I do for a Secret Santa? You'll have to stay tuned for Part 2 to find out. You are listening to Greenwood and Company on KCTS. It's that uninvited guest that comes every winter. The common cold. Do you want to be sneezing when Santa comes down the chimney? Well, even if you do, take a spoonful of Gulliver's cough syrup. Our blend of Laputan berries and other unknown chemicals clears your throat, dissolves thick mucus, sweetens phlegm, and makes the season bright. Side effects may include diarrhea, nocturnal binge eating, and dreams involving tooth disintegration. But no need to call a physician. Just trust us. Also, do not take if you are a zombie. You may inadvertently swallow Santa Claus and several reindeer. That stubborn hacking's no match for Gulliver's Cough Syrup, a product of St. Petersburg Coffee and Tea Company of Hannibal, Missouri. Available in the pharmacy section at Giggett's supermarkets and other subpar retailers. Support for Greenwood and Company and the Cactus, KCTS, comes from the Society for Cats with Mathematics Test Anxiety, the Used Car Salesman Plaid Sport Coat Foundation, and the Folding Chair Charitable Trusts. Well, I hope you're enjoying Part 1 of our Christmas episode. We'll have more on Part 2, which will be our episode next week. But before we reach the end, when I was growing up, I remember every once in a while we would go with my Grammy Benson out to downtown Glendale. We would sometimes eat at this restaurant called Bitsy Mama's or another restaurant called House Murphy. But mostly at Christmas time, what I remember, all around the town square, they would have all the trees decorated in all kinds of colorful lights, and this was one of the things that I really enjoyed about Christmas time in Phoenix, Arizona. So I wrote this poem as a tribute, Glendale Glitters. When it's Christmas time in Glendale, Arizona, the city glitters when the sky grows dark. The elves and Santa greet the little children, where the lights grow on the trees of Murphy Park. Groups of guys and girls assemble 'neath the oak trees, but one from each group strays in search of bliss. Boy and girl admire the scenes upon a park bench, then turn to smile and share a Christmas kiss. As the organ plays, so ring the nearby church bells, and choirs sing of Christ and midnight clears, of the baby who was born to be the Savior, to strengthen hope and snuff out all our fears. When it's Christmas time in Glendale, Arizona, the Christmas lights glow bright for all to see. Glendale Glitters and its Christmas celebration represent the things that Christmas means to me. That brings an end to this week's Greenwood and Company. Our show was created and hosted by yours truly and was written by him along with James Salison and Minnesota Martinez. The engineer is Ivan Crosby. Jonas Andrews answers the phones even though we don't take calls on this program. The theme was composed by Martin Landstrom, and our costumes are provided by Grandma's Garage Thrift Shop. All the characters, settings, and situations depicted in this program, along with all advertised products, are entirely fictional, and any similarities to products, events, or persons, living or dead, is entirely coincidental. Also, KCTS is not an actual radio station. Be sure to like and leave a comment on this podcast, and make sure to follow us on Spotify to get more information about new episodes. And be sure to share this podcast with your friends. Just a reminder to please be careful if you are going out on the 101, the 17, or Route 66 tonight. I'm Jamison Greenwood, and until we meet again, stay healthy, stay safe, and stay young at heart. Good night. This is KCTS FM Phoenix. Stay tuned for Lacking in Substance.